So we're in the third week of a series that I've called The Plot. And we're going to talk about us today. So we're going to get there, and we're going to talk about being formed a little bit in the mother's womb. So it's got a little bit of Mother's Day to it, but I wanted to continue on. Because if you don't know God, or you're not a Christian, you've lost the plot. You don't know what's going on in life. You think there's some things happening that aren't really happening. Because a lot of times you think it's about you. You know, we talked about watching a movie and somebody coming halfway in and saying, "Can you explain it to me?" Don't want to. I may be able to, but I don't want to. So we said 4 things, and if you don't get these 4 things right, perspective-wise, if you don't understand what's happening. Now, the first is God. Remember, we have to get God right, and we said most of us have a God that's too small. That's why I've got my God box. Remember, last week I had a God box, and we said a lot of times we keep him in a box, not because we intended to, but because we constructed a box that didn't have enough holiness. So we kind of pushed down his holiness, or we said, well, he's not that good, or he's not that powerful, he's not that wise. And then sometimes we said, the nice thing about a box is we can leave it in the car when we go do something else. And we want to leave God out sometimes. So we said we got to get God right. Today we're going to talk about us. And we got to get us right. We got to know where we fit in. Where do we fit in into this story? Next week we're going to talk about the enemy and the battle that we face. And that's a big one, because we are facing a battle, but we don't lose it because our God's too weak. We lose it because we don't really see what's going on. We don't know what we're fighting this time. And then the 4th thing we'll talk about is the Christian walk. How do we learn, grow, go through that for years and decades? Now, I would say as a people, we think we're smarter than previous generations. Because, is the earth flat? Please say no. So we think we're smarter than past generations. Did you know that what contributed to George Washington's death is when he was sick and he was worn down? They bled him with leeches so far that he couldn't recover. Anybody been bled with leeches lately? See, we're smarter. But then I look and say, well, 70 years ago in the owner's manual, they put how to adjust the pistons of a car in the owner's manual. And now they put in the owner's manual, don't drink antifreeze. Are we really smarter? I don't know. We're more advanced. We have things at our fingertips that other people don't or haven't before. But sometimes we'll conform to the culture. What it says is right. What it says is, anybody see the AI robot over in China? They had a humanoid robot, looked like it's out of a movie, and it was connected, but it lost control and tried to kill the people that were programming it. Isn't that a little scary? We think we're smart, though. I found an interesting exercise a couple of years ago, and it's you take your life. So I'm 53, and so y'all know I was born. 19 was 71. It'll be 54. But if I count backwards from 71, I get to 1917. And look at what happened in my lifespan if you go both ways. So we do that because it makes us feel small. Go back to World War I. That's how long I've lived from 71 till now, as if you go back. One of my favorite church members I've ever had was Miss Melba. She supported everything. She just loved when kids would be in the service, and she lived well into her 90s. 96, I think, is where we lost her about 8 years ago. I liked her because she was the last person I knew that rode horses to school. And we would bring it to our kids' classes, and they'd go, "You did what?" "Yeah, we rode horses to school." "You know where y'all have PE? We fed our horses, watered our horses." She had lived a long life. My dad's 30 years older than me. So if you start where he was and you go backward, his lifespan, and a lot of y'all are going to do this, you realize it was before Abraham Lincoln was president. That's a long time. See, it makes us realize we're very small in a way. We're very small in a way, and it realizes that billions of people have come and died in that time. But for every one of them, God has a purpose. And His purpose for His people doesn't change because culture changed. It doesn't change because we decided we're smarter than someone else. First we have to realize that the story is about God. We get to play a role. You have a part, but it's not your story. You're not the hero of the story because He's the designer, the creator of everything, including you. Have you ever seen, you're in a place and you're like, what is that? I don't know what that is. And it's in a place and you don't know what it is, in a strange place. Why is it here? Does it even have a purpose? Well, I feel like that odd-looking thing in a strange place sometimes. And if I don't know my purpose, if I don't go to the designer, I'll spend 70-plus years doing things I wasn't designed to do, doing things that weren't my purpose. Now, did I have fun? Did I enjoy? Did I eat a lot of good food? Yeah. But did I get done what He wanted me to get done? But if we start with God, and remember, we've been in Psalm 139, this whole passage, this is the third week of that. Let me say that. Today is Mother's Day, and these 23 days since we started here, 22 since we started, 23 we go back, busiest days of our lives. If we don't feel, and I told the board when we started, I said, till Mother's Day, it's crazy. 7 hotels in 6 cities, conferences, different things, traveling all over, graduation, and we knew we were going to be strapped. So if you think, well, we've had a pastor for 3 weeks, and I don't feel like he's done anything. Yeah, I've tried. But it'll get better because now I can turn my attention. And everybody knew that when we started. They knew we would be trying to move and trying to get our house ready to sell. They knew we would be coming over. So I haven't got to get to you yet, but we will get there. We will do better. So, give us a little grace for that, please, because I know we've been that way. So Psalm 139, we've been there, verse 13. Here's a little bit Mother's Day. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. He knew who your mother was going to be. He knew who was going to raise you. He knew what was going to happen. The New Living Translation says, thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. And then it says, your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it. And this morning when I was shaving and trying to get my hair in place, I didn't look and go, marvelous. Because we don't think that. But He did it. He did this. Okay, this is not what happens in any way, but there are times I feel like, God's making people. And He gets to making me, and He gets right there, and He goes, oh, I love this song. And He gets distracted and forgot. But that's not really what happened. He knew I would strive with everything in me to get to be the average height of an American male. And I made it. But that's as far as I went. I like to watch kid videos, baby videos, dog videos, funny videos, and I'm amazed. The kid ones, there's one, and I'm sure y'all have seen it out there, and it's a little baby. She can't be 7, 8 months old. She's being held, and they give her first taste of ice cream off of an ice cream cone. And they just touch it too, and she does that. Her eyes get big, and she takes 2 hands, grabs it, and shoves it in her face. Because she marvels and wonders at, what was that I just got to eat? That's amazing. And then they grow up into us, and we don't wonder, we don't marvel anymore. My wife wishes I was not so wonderfully complex. She wishes I wasn't so marvelous. She doesn't use that word. Okay, she'll have to give it to you sometime, though. If she picks up her phone and she goes, Siri, what's my name? Do you know what it says? Your name is Mrs. Wonderful. You can get your phone to call you anything you want. Think about that. Rename yourself and then ask your phone. Verse 16 is where it kind of takes a turn. It says, all the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. Now, I've had a good life, so I'm saying that's pretty good. Now, there's been some days and some months and some years I do not want to live again. But God knew. So what I'm saying is, if you had abuse when you were 6, He knew if something happened traumatically at 16, if you lost your mother at 26, or you got divorced at 36, or you had cancer at 56, He knew. Well, see, now we start thinking, He let that happen to me? What's wrong with God? Well, that's part of the story. And this is where it gets interesting, because being the parent of a teenager is not like being the parent of a 3-year-old. Or that baby. I watched that baby during worship because she kind of set her down and she bounced a little bit. So I got caught watching a baby, but wow, that's worship. Because I looked and said, fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous, wonderfully complex when you look at that baby. But then they start to grow up. My daughter, I remember Jalen, she was in a room with Caleb. She was about 3. He was on the top bunk, and she was so excited about tomorrow. She wanted tomorrow to happen. She needed tomorrow to happen. And she said, Daddy, that's what she called me, Daddy, can you make sure the sun comes up tomorrow? And well, you know what I said? Yes, I will. I will do that. She thought I had power. She thought I had pull. And then they grow up into a teenager and realize, you don't have pull. You don't have nothing. They think your rules are too strict. They think you're keeping them from good or worse, causing their bad. But see, that's the tension of viewing God through the wrong lens. If you look at God and say, well, this bad happened to me, what are you doing? That's not how we can look at Him. That's not our role. Because God does not cause it. He created the Garden of Eden. He really wanted it to stay there. He wanted to walk and talk with us. And then, well, should I say Eve messed it up on Mother's Day? I won't. But He wants Eden, and we'll return to that someday. But we have to start with the knowledge He has a plan. It's not about us. He is the designer of the universe. He did create you. He does hear you. He does see you. He does know you. And He will listen to you, and He will be there. But He also knows it's not about you. Now, our culture, our world would say that the clump of cells that we call a baby inside a person, they say, well, that's just a clump of cells. Psalm 139 says different. We believe different. Culture would say a fetus isn't deserving of life. It's an object to be gotten rid of, an inconvenience. God would say, you're a mom. You're a mom the moment you conceived. And I started making that person. I started creating their DNA. And I made 46 DNA molecules line up. And each DNA molecule has 3 billion strands of DNA. 3 billion inside you that all had to line up to get you to look like that, talk like that, to have the things that you have. And you think the world thinks it's an accident? It's perfectly sequenced. God put it in motion. You were made by God, but you were made for God. Until you understand you were made for God, it's not going to make any sense. You're going to be confused. You're going to be out there wondering, what's my identity? How am I going to identify this year? What's meaning, purpose, significance, and your destiny? Because a path that doesn't have God in it is just a dead end. Because you didn't create yourself. You don't know necessarily what you were created for. And we look at that creation. If you go out in your new car, it has an owner's manual. And it does say don't drink battery acid or, don't lay down in front of the car. Things that... I was looking for something in my car last Sunday. It didn't have that. Every time I looked for something, it said take it to a dealer, take it to a dealer, take it to a dealer. It didn't tell me anything. It just kept saying, find somebody smarter than you. So I did. I went on YouTube. And it worked. But the Creator knows your purpose, and He wrote an owner's manual. What do we call it? The Bible. So that's where we start. That's where we look to find out, what is it about me? What should I be doing? What is the purpose that was planned before my conception? Now, you get to choose a lot of things about your life, but not your purpose. So your purpose is not your job. Your purpose is not a lot of things because it's His story. You just get to play a part. And, I said this week, I said a couple of times, man, I wish I hadn't said that. Wish I hadn't done that. I was with a lot of people. It was our Assembly of God state conference, and I was with a lot of people. And I was checking in a lot of people. I talked to more people this week than I've talked to in 3 years. I know I did, because it was hundreds of people I personally talked to. And sometimes I said something that wasn't smart. But God never looks and goes, wish I hadn't created him. He doesn't do that. He doesn't have those thoughts. So what happens is you're important. You have a purpose. You have things that only you can do, that God made you. So we have to without God, other things drive us. Guilt. Some people out of anger. Some people out of shame. Some people it's just materialism. I need more. I need more. I need more. Some of us it's approval. I struggled with approval before. If you walk up after this and say, man, that was a horrible sermon. What's wrong with you? I'd have a long drive home. It would be tough because I'm not saying you have to tell me I'm good. Just wait till tomorrow to tell me I'm bad. But knowing your purpose simplifies your life. It gives you guardrails. You ever drove on a mountain road and you're glad for the guardrails? I remember going up Pikes Peak when I was a kid, back when the road was that big. And you're glad for those guardrails. But in our lives, our purpose is the guardrails. It says, this is how you should make that decision. Here's where you should spend your time. Here's what you should do with your resources because of your purpose. Purpose focuses you. You stop wasting time if you're living your purpose. This is just the beginning of eternity. It is just the beginning. 2 Corinthians 5:1 says, for we know that when this earthly tent we live in is taken down, that is, when we die and leave this earthly body, we will have a house in heaven, an eternal body made for us by God Himself, not by human hands. So this is just the beginning. And today, if you got a car out there that'll go, you can go anywhere in 48 states you want to go this week. Today, you can take off on your trip. Probably you could get on the computer and say, I want to go wherever, Africa, Venice, wherever you want to go, you could get a ticket. And you could probably get there today if your credit card would hold it. But there's only two choices where you spend eternity. There's only two. Not 187 countries I want to visit, two. And whenever we think about that, it sobers us up a little, and we say, we got to start living a little different because today is part of eternity. The things that annoy us, the way we spend time and money, are you looking at that in light of eternity? An old hymn, turn your eyes upon Jesus. How does that chorus end? And the things of earth will grow strangely dim. Whenever I'm looking at Him, this is not as bright and shiny anymore. So when you think about eternity, wow, this pain and loss is pretty small. This is just a few years. 70 is not many when you compare it to eternity. Let's say you make it to 101. Not many years compared to eternity. Paul says in Philippians 3, he said, I once thought these things were valuable, but now I consider them worthless because of what Christ has done. Yes, everything else is worthless when compared to the infinite value of knowing Christ Jesus, my Lord. For His sake, I've discarded everything else, counting it as garbage, so that I could gain Christ. That's the perspective. It's just a few years here. It's temporary. But we have to take care of what He has given us. The parable of the talents is what it says in the King James. It's actually money. Some translations say bags of gold because it was a large amount of money. And the guy was going away for a while, and the first guy gave him 5. And the second guy gave him 2, and the third guy gave him 1. Well, the guy that had 5, we know what he did. He went off and made 5 more. The one that had 2 went and made 2 more. And the one that had 1. Now, think about this. He buried it to protect it. Did he steal it? Did he waste it? He just didn't use it. And in Matthew 25, when the master returns, he said to the first one that made 5, well done, you good and faithful servant. You know, that's what we're looking for in heaven. Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with what I gave you. I'm going to give you a lot more. Come and share my happiness. Whoa. The second person, same thing. He said the exact same thing. Come and share my happiness. Well done. And the third one, you might want to cover your ears. You wicked, lazy servant. Go throw that servant outside into the darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Well, you know what he's talking about there. He's talking about people that don't do things they're supposed to do. The lesson here is that any age, 20, 90, you got to do something with what God gave you. So as Christians, we have to think differently. We can't just think short term. We can't just think short term. Marriage is this way. If you only thought about marriage for this week, I mean, marriage, thinking about my grandkids got me through some tough times 15 years ago. I didn't have grandkids, but I said, I want to look out. I want to see things differently 20 or 30 years from now. There were times we had some tough years in our 30 years. Some really, I mean, if I told you the story, you're like, whoa, that is bad. That's tough. And I wanted out, because out is the easiest direction. Now, Angie, I'm sure, looked at it differently. She looked at it and said, that life insurance policy is for how much? And Steve's here? So she looked at it differently. She didn't really kill me. I wouldn't be here. I don't know what she thought. But I do know some marriages shouldn't and can't survive. So don't think I say stay regardless of abuse or regardless of any danger, because some things shouldn't happen. But many people give up when there's first sign of trouble. They give up. And we have to think longer term. We have to think out in the future. And when Jesus summed up the law, how did he sum it up? We have it in Mark 12 and we have it in Matthew also. They said, pick the greatest commandment, sum up the law for us. And he said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, all your strength. The second is this, love your neighbor as yourself. There is no greater commandment than these. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's the second one. And I missed an important part of this for many years. I really did. Did you know God doesn't say love your neighbor better than yourself? It doesn't say more. He says look in the mirror and love yourself a lot. Take care of yourself. I made you. But love that person too, because I made them. And a lot of times as Christians, we push ourselves down and it kind of take care of the other person. But we have to look at what God did and be proud of what he made, be impressed. I was talking with a friend recently, and he was pretty upset at something he had done. A great Christian guy. But he was beating himself up. I mean, relentlessly. And he was just, mad, angry, and he was saying, I'm so stupid, and I'm putting myself down. He was criticizing himself. And I said, what would you do if you walked in and there was an adult doing that to your kid, saying what you just said to that kid? He said, I would be so angry that I would bring them physical harm. Because I'd never let somebody talk to my kid that way. But we do it to ourselves. We are the hardest ones on ourselves. If you're not that person and I'm not speaking to you, let it go, because you have a lot of security and confidence. A lot of us don't. And I'm saying to you, stop being so hard on the person God created. Love the person. Know that God's for you. Now, I want to spend the next few minutes, just won't be long, talking about the 5 purposes. And I'm borrowing these from Rick Warren. The Purpose-Driven Life's incredible book. I couldn't do better than this, so I'm just going to go right through what he had. I'm not pretending I created these, but I love them. And number 1 is, we were planned for God's pleasure. For the Lord takes delight in his people. Whoa. He crowns us with victory. Now, this is not normal. It makes me feel like, really, God, Last week we talked about Zephaniah 3, and it said, God rejoices over us with singing. He quiets us with his love. God does that. It doesn't feel right, because I think it sounds like God might need me, and we know he doesn't need me. We know but he wants us. He wants to dwell in your praise. He wants to be close with you. He wants to be there. And it's not just one place in the Bible. I'm not cherry picking. The Lord delights in those who fear Him, Psalm 147. So we've got to start worshiping, not just a part of our to-do list. Angie's teaching on worship in there this month with the kids, and we were talking back and forth, and they're trying to explain because it's hard for kids. I would say it's hard for adults because we're supposed to live every moment of our lives as unto God. Worship's not part of our to-do list. Worship is what we do everything to. It's a lifestyle. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise will continually be in my mouth. Let the name of the Lord be praised, both now and forevermore, from the rising of the sun to the place where it sets. The name of the Lord is to be praised. All day, all the time. If you can't do it to God, you might need to rethink if you should be doing it. If you can't do it as worship to God, now you can do your job, you can do your family, you can do a lot of things as worship to God. But if you can't do it, say, should I be doing it? Because God should be a part of everything you do. Number 2, we were formed for God's family. We're not meant to exist out separately in our own pot, in a potted plant. He says in John 15, I am the vine, you are the branches. In that passage, 1 through 8, he repeats that multiple times. I am the vine, you are the branches. Hey, guys, remember, I'm the vine, y'all are all the branches. That's what we need to remember, is we have to be connected to the vine, but we also are connected to other branches. The universal church, across the entire world we're connected, but we're also connected in the local body. In Romans 12, verse 4, he says, just as each of us has one body with many members, got a lot of members, and these members don't all have the same function. My feet are keeping me upright, my mouth's speaking, my eyes are seeing. So in Christ, we, though many, form one body. And each member belongs, man, he uses that word. Did you get that? Each member in this local body belongs to all the others. Not as a possession, but it means your gifting, Casey up here, belongs to this church. It means that what I'm doing and what I'm called to do as a pastor belongs to this church. The things that need to be done in this church, I sit down with pastors and they're like, well, we don't have anybody to do any of that. I'm like, you don't? So when God said, so I placed the members in the body, He forgot you? The people are there, and some of you should be doing some things, and we'll get to that, but you belong to this church because we grow you. Your roots grow in with us. Now, Romans 12 also says, make every effort, are the words, to live at peace with everyone. And I know we're going to disagree. I know we will, but make every effort to live at peace as we grow together, as we serve together, as we share our lives. The church family keeps us grounded. They share your pain, they share your success, if we're loving the way we should be. It also teaches us how to forgive, because there will be a point that I make you mad, probably standing right here, and you have to forgive me. Now, I won't do it intentionally, but forgiving is not an option. The church body teaches us that. So it's our duty to commit to and to protect the local church. It's one of your purposes in life. It's one of your purposes is to commit to and protect a local body. Number 3, you were created to become like Christ. There's so many places that teach this. I like Colossians, the 2nd chapter. It says, and now, just as you accepted Christ Jesus as your Lord, you must continue to follow Him. Let your roots grow down into Him. Let your lives be built on Him. Then your faith will grow strong in the truth that you were taught, and you will overflow with thankfulness. Keep building your life. You're created to become like Christ. If you're not moving towards Christ, And I'm going to challenge some of you that are 50 or 60 or 70 and you're still crotchety. You should be getting more like Christ, not less like Christ. We got to move the right direction. We've got to do that. There's some that just say, I'm not going to submit to authority. I know kids go through a rebellious phase because they see other options. But God's plan is that we become more like Christ. The world pushes us for comfort. No, you don't really want to do that. That's work. You want to have more comfort. You need this refrigerator with a camera inside so you can see at the store what's there. I saw that thing and I rewound it and if it can see what's there, it can also see me when I open that door and what I got. I don't want anybody to know that. So how far will comfort go? It just keeps going. It keeps going. But comfort is not God's purpose for you. Becoming like Christ. And if He has to pull on you, if He has to push on you, if He has to prod you to become like Christ, He will do it. Philippians 2, verses 12 through 15. They're just amazing. I'm going to read them quickly. Dear friends, you always followed my instructions when I was with you, and now that I'm away, is Paul with us? So he's talking to us. Now that I'm away, it's more important. Work hard to show the results of your salvation, obeying God with deep reverence and fear. For God is working in you, giving you the desire, notice this, and the power to do what pleases Him. He's giving us the desire, if we're doing what it says, which is obeying God with deep reverence and fear. He's working in us to give us a desire and the power to do what pleases Him. Well, then He just gets plain mean. Do everything without complaining and arguing. It sounds like He's talking to His kids. Would y'all just stop? Stop arguing. Do everything without complaining and arguing, so that no one can criticize you. Live clean, innocent lives as children of God, shining like bright lights in a world full of crooked and perverse people. He does do that. This is a first century church. This is the OG. This is the original church. And Paul's looking at them and he's saying, I know you've only been a church for 10 years, but you got to stop complaining. And you got to stop criticizing and you got to stop arguing. We got to do that because God is working in us. He's working in us to give us a desire to please Him. Because being saved gets you to heaven, but we're talking about growing in Christ. Getting saved gets you to heaven, but He never wants to leave anybody there. If somebody gets saved on their deathbed, great. If you're the thief on the cross and you're going today, you don't have to become like Christ. But the rest of us, the Bible is full of places telling us to grow, to become like Christ, to obey God, to please God. So we have to open our hearts, our ears, what we hear, our eyes, what we see, our mouths, what we speak, our feet, where we go, to the Holy Spirit. And He gives us the power to please Him and the desire to please Him. Number 4, because that number 3 is a long process that we'll teach on for a long time. Number 4, you were shaped for serving God. That means some of you are different than others. I guess we knew that. But for the introvert, don't need you to be a greeter. I mean, it's that simple. Some of you have things, if you don't know how to smile, I need you facing away from people. Some of us in our DNA can't smile easily. But we're shaped for serving God because remember, He made us wonderfully complex. In Ephesians 2:10, this goes right along with wonderfully complex. For we are God's what? What's that word? Say this, I am God's masterpiece. Wow. I am God's masterpiece. That's amazing. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus so we can do I love this, the good things that He planned for us long ago. You've got good things to do, and He knew that in Palatka and Putnam County in 2025, there's some things. He knew, Bill, He knew there was a bass that needed to be played up here in 2025, and He had you in mind. He had you in mind that long ago. That's amazing to me that He knew what was happening that long ago. And in the local church, remember, we all belong to all the others. All of us do. So if Bill misses a note, that's as much our fault as Bill's, sort of. We overlook it when he misses a note. Now, I'm not saying he ever has, but we have to do that because he's part of us. He made us in a specific way to do specific things. Romans 12, again, says some of you are going to teach, some of you are going to lead, some of you are going to encourage, some of you are going to be givers, some of you are going to do a lot of things, but we're all called to love, because right after he says some of you are going to do that, he says make sure your love is sincere. Make sure you hate what is evil and cling to what is good. So we know we have to do those things, and we're going to start putting that together as a church, as our purpose. Make sure, because you know what? Here's the part that we miss. Well, I don't want to do that. Really? Do you know how much joy you're going to get doing that? If God created it for you to do you know how great it's going to be? Do you know how good you're going to feel when you do it? Do you know how much it's going to add to your life when you're laying in bed at night? It's not about doing it because He's making me. It's doing it because He called us and prepared it for us to do. So we have to make sure also that I don't covet Bill's bass playing, because sometimes we wish we were like somebody else. Sometimes we wish we had their giftings. But God put yours in. He shaped you. He shaped you with a specific purpose to do in this church, if you're planted in this church. And remember, you're not your own bucket. You have to be planted somewhere according to God. So if you're planted here, He has something for you to do. The fifth purpose is that we were all made for a mission. There's no way around this. Sometimes we hide from it, and as churches, we don't talk about it much because it's easier not to. I won't talk about you not doing it if you won't talk about me not doing it. It really is that way. But Matthew 28, as Jesus is going away, He said, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I've told you. And He said He'd be with us always. Now, I've met Christians that say, I'm off the hook because I don't have the gift of evangelism. I'm not an evangelist. No, doesn't get you off the hook. You may not preach or teach, but you share your story, because your story will matter more to someone than what I'm saying. My story is pretty boring, but your story will matter, sharing what God has done for you. You know, Paul says that one plants, one waters, one harvests. We're all part of this. We're all part of moving this forward. The Great Commission is not something we can get around, and we won't as a church. We will start. I will. That's one place I will push people. I will push you to grow, and I will push you to go. I will push you because God says it so clearly, and we have to reach out. We have to reach out because we were formed, we were made, we were shaped, we were created with a mission, and we can't get around that mission. I know I've thrown a lot at you, and I know I've went fast because I realized yesterday about 5 o'clock I had too much to say. But I said it, and now we're going to pray about it.